to support the platform just in case anything like this happens again, you can do it by way of PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and also by the Anchor. And you can also further support the platform by way of going to the Teespring store or the shoe store that is located in the comment section below. All right, so this is labeled as just a moment in history, and this is to deal with American history, the stories that people really might not know that much about, and the people who were a part of that history. Judah Philip Benjamin, born August 6th, 1811, and died May 6th of 1884, was a United States Senator from Louisiana, a cabinet officer of the Confederate States, and after his escape to the United Kingdom at the end of the American Civil War, an English barrister. Benjamin was the first Jew to hold a cabinet position in North America and the first to be elected to the United States Senate who had not renounced his faith. Benjamin was born to Sephardic Jewish parents from London who had moved to St. Croix in Danish West Indies when it was occupied by Britain during the Napoleonic Wars. Seeking greater opportunities, his family immigrated to the United States, eventually settling in Charleston, South Carolina. Judah Benjamin attended Yale College but left without graduating. He moved to New Orleans, where he read law and passed the bar. Benjamin rose rapidly, both at the bar and in politics. He became a wealthy planter and slave owner, and was elected to and served in both houses of the Louisiana legislature prior to his election by the legislature to the United States Senate in 1852. There, he was an eloquent supporter of slavery. After Louisiana seceded in 1861, Benjamin resigned as senator and returned to New Orleans. He soon moved to Richmond after Confederate President Jefferson Davis appointed him as Attorney General. Benjamin had little to do in that position, but Davis was impressed by his competence and appointed him as Secretary of War. Benjamin firmly supported Davis, and the president reciprocated the loyalty by promoting him to Secretary of State in March of 1862, while Benjamin was being criticized for the rebel defeat at Battle of Roanoke Island. As Secretary of State, Benjamin attempted to gain official recognition for the Confederacy by France and the United Kingdom, but his efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. To preserve the Confederacy as military defeats made its situations increasingly desperate, he advocated freeing and arming the slaves, but his proposals were only partially accepted in the closing months of the war. When Davis fled the Confederate capital of Richmond in early 1865, Benjamin went with him. He left that presidential party and was successful in escaping from the mainland United States, but Davis was captured by Union troops. Benjamin sailed to Great Britain, where he settled and became a barrister, again rising to the top of his profession before retiring in 1883. He died in Paris the following year. Later on, Benjamin married Natalie, who was Catholic and from a wealthy French Creole family. As part of her dowry, she brought with her $3,000 and two female slaves aged 11 and 16. Together, they were worth about $1,000. Even before their marriage, Natalie St. Martin has scandalized New Orleans society by her conduct. William D. Valet, in his journal article on the Benjamin marriage contract, suggests that the St. Martin family was not terribly distraught to be rid of their younger daughter, and that Benjamin was virtually suborned to marry Natalie and did so without hesitation in order to further his ambitions. Benjamin became a specialist in commercial law, of which there was a great deal in New Orleans' busy river port, a center of international commerce and the domestic slave trade. By 1840, the city had become the fourth largest in the United States and among the wealthiest. Many of the best lawyers in the country practiced commercial law there, and Benjamin successfully competed with them. In one case, he successfully represented a seller of slaves against allegations that the seller knew that the slaves had incurable tuberculosis. Although Benjamin tried some jury cases, he preferred bench trials in commercial cases and was an expert at appeals. In 1842, Benjamin had a group of cases with international implications. He represented insurance companies being sued of the value of slaves who had revolted aboard a ship, Creole, in 1841, as they were being transported in the coastwise slave trade from Virginia to the New Orleans. The rebels had sailed the ship to Nassau in the Bahamas, a British colony, where those who came to shore were freed, as Britain had abolished slavery in 1834. The owners of slaves brought suits for upwards of $150,000 against their insurers who declined to pay. Benjamin made several arguments, that most prominent of which was that the slave owners had brought the revolt on themselves by packing the slaves in overcrowded conditions. Benjamin stated this in a court brief, quote, "What is a slave? He is a human being. He has feelings and passions and intellect. His heart, like the heart of white man, swells with love, burns with jealousy, aches with sorrow, pines under restraint and discomfort, boils with revenge, and ever cherishes the desire for liberty." Considering the character of the slave and the peculiar passion which, generated by nature, are strengthened and stimulated by his conditions, he is prone to revolt in the near future of things, and ever ready to conquer, i.e., obtain his liberty where a probable chance presents itself. The court ruled for Benjamin's clients, although on other grounds. Benjamin's brief was widely reprinted, including by abolitionist groups. Historian Eli Evans, Benjamin's biographer, does not believe that the argument in the Creole case represented Benjamin's personal view. Rather, he was an advocate for his client in an era when it was usual to write dramatically to distract attention from the weaker points of the case. Evans finds it remarkable and a testament to Benjamin that he could be elected to office in antebellum Louisiana, a slave society, after writing such words. By the early 1840s, Benjamin was wealthy from his law practice and, with a partner, bought a sugarcane plantation in Bella Chase. The purchase and the subsequent construction of the grand house there advanced Benjamin's ambitions. The planter class controlled Louisiana politics and would trust only a man who also owned substantial land and slaves. Benjamin's marriage was then failing, and he had hoped in vain that his wife would be content at the plantation. Benjamin threw his energy into improving Bella Chase, importing new varieties of sugarcane, and adopting up-to-date methods and equipment to extract and process the sugar. He purchased 140 slaves to work the plantation and had a reputation as a humane slave owner. Benjamin's view that slavery should continue was based on his belief that citizens had a right to their property as guaranteed by the Constitution. As Butler put it, quote, "He could no more see that it was right for Northern people to rob him of slaves than it would be for him to convey a horse stealing." He avoided the argument of some that the slaves were inferior beings and that their position was ordained by God. Evans ascribed this to Benjamin not being raised as a slave owner but coming to it later in life. Benjamin joined in a widespread view of white Southerners that the African American would not be ready for emancipation for many years, if ever. They feared that freeing the slaves would ruin many and lead to murder and rapes by the newly liberated of their former masters and mistresses. Such a massacre has been feared by Southerners since the Haitian Revolution. The violent revolt known as Santo Domingo in the South, in which the slaves of what became Haiti killed many whites and mulattoes in 1804 while gaining independence from French control. When the anti-slave book Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852, Benjamin spoke out against Harriet Beecher Stowe's portrayal. He stated that slaves were for the most part well treated, and plantation punishments such as whipping or branding were more merciful than sentences of imprisonment that a white man might receive in the North for similar conduct.